Hello everyone, welcome back to What's Culture Football. I am of course Gareth here, joined by the awesome, ever awesome Andrew Pollard. And we're going to be talking about, well, a bit of a Premier League preview. We're going to be talking about Leeds, we're going to be talking about Leicester. We have made it to the L's. It's going to be a lovely show for you right now. But first, we need to talk about Leeds. Dirty Leeds, because I'm a Man United fan. Sorry for any Leeds fans out there. We need to talk about them. They've finally made it back to the promised Premier League land. And in all honesty, I'm not too sure what a realistic expectation is for Leeds coming back after so long. What do you reckon, Andrew?
Yeah, I like how you have to get the dirty Leeds bit in there. That's
Yeah.
That's going to go down well on Twitter. That's all on Gareth. Nothing to do with me. I'm just a humble Wrexham fan. I think with Leeds, I don't know, when it comes to expectations for this season, I think the fans, a lot of the Leeds fans seem to have quite lofty expectations of maybe a top half finish. To me, I think realistically, that first season back in the Premier League, I think it just has to be safety first, really. You've got a squad there of players who they've been great in the Championship for the last 2-3 seasons. They've been playing well. Finally got that promotion, but there's a lot of players there that have never played Premier League football. It's a big step up. I think some of those players will easily step up, but I mean, you've got Pablo Hernandez played Premier League football, but you look for the rest of the team, and there's not. I mean, Patrick Bamford, who Leeds have this weird love-hate relationship with, it seems, the fans. But I think, realistically for them, for me, safety would be the target rather than kind of running before you can walk. I think it's been a long time since Leeds have been in the Premier League. 2004 they got relegated, so 16 years, which crazy that is. That such a big club has taken this long to get back to the promised land, as it were. But I think for realistic expectations, I think it's just safety first, and then look for a bit more the next year, if possible.
Yeah, because it's an odd one, because they've got such an interesting project there with Bielsa, just at the helm, really. I think Pep said it himself for much of last season and the season before, that he is seen in his eyes as the best manager on the planet. Yeah. And that's huge praise coming into the Premier League. That's going to be really tasty, seeing him come up against the likes of Pep and Klopp and Mourinho and Solskjaer, don't forget. Coming up against it. It's going to be tactical, just battles left, right and centre. I think, judging on the way Leeds have played, like you said, in the Championship in the last year or two, they look like a team that have a consistent style now. They look like they've got a philosophy, and that always tends to go down a treat when you come into the Premier League. If you stick to that, if you stick to the way you played in the past, like you saw it with Bournemouth when they played their exact same style that they played coming up through the ranks. They didn't change it. They didn't go sitting at the back, parking the bus and just trying to counter-attack. They went, nope, we've got a style of play. We're going to stick to that and see if it works in the Premier League. I think that's where they're going to get the most success. I just cannot wait for the Manchester United games, the Liverpool games, all these great rival just battles that we've been deprived of for so many years, because that's what makes the Premier League such an incredible league. You've got all these little infighting, little sort of rivalries. It's going to be a shame for a while not having the fans in the actual stadiums to scream and hurl abuse at each other, but we can do that on Twitter. That is what Twitter is for. But I think a big thing to ask is, who you think out of the squad that they've got there, had that, like last season, those performers, who do you think needs to really up the game to get into the Premier League? You know, you mentioned people like Pablo Hernandez, obviously, who's played in the Premier League before. You've got Patrick Bamford, who's played a little bit. And they've also got the likes of Jack Harrison. Like, Jack Harrison's on loan again from City. I actually saw, here's a little thing, I saw Jack Harrison play for, I think it was New York City, in New York. I watched an MLS game, and he was pretty good in the old MLS, but it's nice seeing him at Leeds. Who do you think in that squad, based on their performances last year, really needs to bring it for the Premier League?
I think key to anything Leeds do, it's kind of the obvious one, but it's Calvin Phillips, the Yorkshire Pirlo, as they call him up in those neck of the woods, who, of course, has got into the England squad now after, even though Gareth Southgate said he wouldn't pick players who've never played in the Premier League, he's picked Calvin Phillips, which he's been kind of talked about as an England prospect for the last probably 2 years. So it's good to see him, and it'll be interesting to see how he does for England if he gets a game. As we're recording this, the Nations League games have not taken place for England, although Wales did get a nice win against Finland. Just throw that in there, 1-0.
I'm half Welsh, so I appreciate that. I do like
that. But I think Calvin Phillips is going to be massively key, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. There's a lot of hype around him, and a lot of fans will not have seen him play because some people just watch Premier League football. So there's a lot of people thinking, well, here's this guy that I've heard loads about. Let's see what he's like if he's the real deal. So I think he'll be pivotal. I think he'll adapt really well to it. I think Liam Cooper as well at the back at centre half, who's just been a mainstay of this Leeds side for 4 or 5 years now as captain. It was kind of him and Pontus Jansson for the longest time, and then Pontus went off to Brentford. Which was a bit of a strange move. But I think Liam Cooper's going to be key at the back. And yeah, I'm really interested to see how Pablo Hernandez does, because he's done brilliantly for Leeds in the Championship. And now it's like, well, you go back to the Premier League. He had spurts for Swansea in the Premier League where he looked good. But he's now 35. And I think I'm interested to see whether he can cut it at the top level again. There's a lot to be excited about on the Leeds side, I think. But also there's still, I don't know if, like I said, I think that just if they're safe at the end of the season, I think that's all I'd ask for if I was a Leeds fan.
I think it's one of them as well, like just a really quick one. Obviously, they had Ben White for last year, who was such a great performer for them. But obviously now he's gone back to Brighton. And they brought in Robin, I believe it's Robin Koch. I don't want to say his name wrong. But they brought him in as like a replacement. He obviously helped Freiburg reach 8th place in the Bundesliga last year, which is quite a feat in itself. But he's not he's a German international, technically, but he's not proven, like so many of those Leeds players aren't proven in the Premier League yet. So so many of the current players, so many of the players that they just brought in it's going to be sink or swim really for most of the season.
Yeah, for years we've heard Leeds fans talking up about how they should be a Premier League team and how these players should be playing in the Premier League, and now it's like I can't say the phrase I was going to say because that's a naughty word in it, but it's kind of like it's put on your big boy pants sort of time, where it's like, right, okay, the fans have talked you up for years. Now let's see if you actually are worthy of being in the Premier League. It's an unrelenting league. All it takes is a bad run, a bad start, and and we talked about how you said about Bournemouth, how they maintained their style and it works so well for them to a point for however many seasons they were in the Premier League. On the other side of that, though, Norwich did the same and kept their style and came rock bottom. So it's like, it really is like such a fine line between, and you'd feel though if Norwich somehow managed to stay up this past season, if they just got that 17th place, then you think like, right, that's good. They can carry on and carry on with this project, this style of play in the Premier League and building it. But it didn't work out for them. Unfortunately, they got relegated. And I think with Leeds, it's one of those where they will stick with their plan of attack because that is what Bielsa does. And it's either going to work brilliantly and it's something to build on for the next couple of seasons, or it's going to go horribly wrong like Norwich. And also Bielsa, the first season he was at Leeds we saw his methods that towards the end of the season, the players just get burnt out. They get absolutely knackered because he works them to the bone. And that's going to be interesting to see in the Premier League as well, with the slightly higher intensity of the Premier League compared to the Championship. I mean, the Championship is a frenetic, fantastic league to watch, and it's a tiring league to watch and to play in, I'm sure. But the Premier League, could that come back to bite him on the backside when fitness comes into play towards the big moments of the season? But yeah, it's going to be so much fun to watch Leeds. Just and also you talked about the rivalries there with Manchester United and maybe with Liverpool. I think it's obviously since Leeds were last in the division in 2004, Manchester City are now the big boys as well. So it's like it's such a different landscape to what it was 16 years ago. So yeah, I'm eager to see what happens with Leeds.
They're going to get relegated. So Leicester. To be honest, I want to see Leeds do well. I just want to see them stay around so they can be our whipping boys for a little bit. So Leicester, we need to talk about Leicester because Leicester had such an anticlimactic season, didn't they, last year? It was a shame because they looked like they were really, well, as a United fan, I wasn't too upset by this, but they were looking like they were going to secure potentially a Champions League place, which it just proved that Brendan Rodgers was doing such a great job at Leicester ever since he came in. They were playing such a really expressive, expansive brand of football. A lot of the younger English talents were coming in, doing really well. Vardy was just back firing on all cylinders, and then it just sort of fell off after the restart. Yeah, they were one of the few teams that seemed to really not. I don't know. The preparation just didn't seem to work out for them whilst everyone else was in lockdown. So the big question is, are they going to be able to mount a top 4 push again?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be really tough for Leicester. Really, yeah. the way they came back from the restart after lockdown was just, I mean, they lost to Everton. They got spanked by Bournemouth 4-1. They had the big two final games against two teams that were competing against, Spurs and Man United, and they got beat 3-0 by Spurs and then 2-0 by United. And it was Leicester's, Leicester had the Champions League spot and it was theirs to throw away, and they threw it away. And I think that, I don't know, you look at the top four as it was last season, they're obviously, I think Manchester City and I think Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool will be in the title hunt. I think Man United will be thereabouts. You think Arsenal make some really good signings. And again, the longer Mikel Arteta is there and gets to implement his own approach to the side, I think they're going to really flourish at some point. I'm not saying title contenders, but I just think it's going to be fun to watch Arsenal. You've got Spurs possibly, if they can bring in some faces. So I think there's a lot of teams that are kind of stepping up or going to be stepping up. And Leicester right now, I don't know. I'm a little bit worried if I was a Leicester fan and I was dreaming of playing Champions League football. I think it's going to be really, really tough for them to crack that top four. But then you can look at realistic expectations as well. Maybe, I think last season, I think a fifth place finish at the beginning of the season would have been a really good season for Leicester. It's just they had that spell where they were second. They were right in the hunt at one point, and it's just the way they spectacularly fell off. But I think, all in all, fifth was a good finish. And I think if they got fifth again, that would, to me, would be, I'd say, a successful season. But are they going to get top four in Champions League football? I don't think so.
And that's in terms of like looking at Leicester as a squad right now, it is that's the big question. What have they got to do now to try and rejuvenate and catch up to the likes of Arsenal, Tottenham? These aren't even teams that are title challenging teams. These are teams that are going to be in that hunt for that Champions League place. Where do you think, in terms of addressing the squad that they've got, what do they need to do? Because you've got the likes of, I think they brought Perez in, was their big marquee signing in the summer last year. He did all right. He blew a bit hot and cold. Some of the guys that were still already there is Seuncu, Pereira obviously got injured a little bit, but he was performing quite well. They've lost Chilwell now at left back, which is a huge loss for that squad. That's the second summer transfer window in a row that they've lost a massive defender at the back. So what have they got to do?
I think there's a lot needs to be addressing. And Chilwell, they got reportedly between 45 and 50 million pounds. So there's that coming in. I think that needs to be used well. They've just signed, I think it was finalised with Timothy Castagne off Atalanta for 20 million, I think, thereabouts, who predominantly can play right back, and maybe that's what they've got in mind, and maybe switch Pereira to the left side because he's played there last season. I thought he had a brilliant season, but until he had that bad injury. But you look at the centre halves for me. There's Soyuncu, there's Johnny Evans, and Johnny Evans is one of those players who always gets a lot of stick, and I think he's a very good centre half to me. Is he the best in the league? No. Is he close? No, but he's a very reliable, solid centre half. I thought him and Soyuncu worked well. But then we saw towards the end of the year when Soyuncu was suspended or Evans got injured, then they're relying on 36-year-old Wes Morgan to come in, who, to me, he's been obviously a legend of that club, captained them to the Premier League. But I think any Leicester fans themselves would be prepared to just see him sail off into the sunset. And there was talks of him maybe moving on to a coaching role. He might even have started that and having maybe one last season as a player coach and then retiring. So he's towards the end of the line. I think, to me, they need another centre half to come in. The midfield looks strong still. When you look at Wilfred Ndidi, you've got James Maddison. I really like Denny Pratt, and then there's Yuri Tillemans, who's a fantastic footballer. But you think a centre half be a priority for me, maybe a full back, a left back, and then going forward, it's that same thing with Leicester where they put all their eggs on Jamie Vardy, and he keeps delivering. But it's always, what if he gets a bad injury? What if he's missing for 6 months? Is Kylian Iheanacho going to step up? Maybe. You've got Ayoze Perez, and then you've got people like Damari Gray, Mark Albrighton still around, and Harvey Barnes just around the wide areas. But I think they need something going forward, another signing or two. Dwight McNeil is a name that's been linked for what feels like months now from Burnley, and I think that would be a really good sign. I think he's a really good player. Came through at Man United, and they let him go.
That's nothing new there, is it?
No. But I think to me, a priority would be a centre half, maybe a full back, and then somebody in the final third of the pitch, whether it's an out-and-out striker to maybe be competition for Vardy, or if we're looking at a wide player, maybe. That's what I'd be addressing if I was Brendan. Leicester
are they're a very interesting squad right now, because if you look at them across the board, every single position, like you said, there's quality in there. Like, they've got nice foundations. It's not a complete overhaul. They don't have to completely change things up. They've got a lot of youth in that side as well that's going to come good, maybe this season, maybe the season after. There's time. There's time in this squad. But like you said, up front, they do look a little bit old. You've got Vardy there who can still deliver. He did it for much of last season, but that the clock ticks. It's just the way life is. The clock ticks, and it's going to get to a point where it might be this season, it might be next season, that he just starts to back off a little bit. But so much of his game relies on frantic pace and getting in behind. Your legs go. It's just the way things are. So are they going to be able to bring in somebody like of that quality that's going to be able to bring in maybe 20 Premier League goals, like a Premier League caliber player? They just don't. They don't just get given away nowadays. Like if you are going to maybe take a punt on someone, there's no guarantee they're going to hit the ground running in the first season. Off the top of my head, I can't think of many strikers that are available. Maybe if Luis Suarez didn't want to go to Juventus, you got somebody like that. But again, he's quite old. It's just there's not a lot of top class strikers available that would probably want to choose Leicester over the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal, United, Liverpool, City, Chelsea. All these really incredibly talented, super crammed full of quality squads. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think as well with that situation, it's a tricky one because it's a little bit like Spurs, where we've heard that they want to go in for to get new strikers, as whoever it is, as a second or third striker. But you know that if you're going to Spurs, you're always going to play second fiddle to Harry Kane, and so you're in that dilemma of a top player isn't going to go there to sit on the bench. And if you go out and splash money on a top player, then that's a bit silly because he's not going to play because Harry Kane starts every game. And Leicester are kind of a little bit like that, where you know that Jamie Vardy is going to start every match that he's available for. And it's like, it feels like, I don't know, 3 years now that everybody's been writing him off, me included, because I'm still bitter that he got promoted to Fleetwood at Wrexham's expense, going back to however many years ago when Wrexham were top of the league at Christmas, the National League, and Fleetwood just went out and spunked a load of money on everybody's best players in the conference and got promoted. And we finished on 98 points, man. It didn't go up. There's pain there still. So
I can't see it.
No. Jamie Vardy and Richard Brodie, man, up front with Fleetwood were lethal. But yeah, people have been writing off Vardy for probably 3 seasons now as a top level striker, and yet he still does it. And while I'm thinking now that this could be like, is he going to be as good next season? Maybe not. But then you wouldn't not back him to go and get 20 goals again. So it's a tough one. And again, with that Harry Kane principle, where if you're a big name striker and Leicester come into you and you're thinking, well, if I go there, I might not get a game. And especially with, even if Vardy, you could say if he's lost something in his game, he's going to always get the benefit of the doubt and play because he's a legend of that club. His goals got onto that title, him and Right Ribble. That whole squad got onto the title. I was going to pinpoint him and Mahrez, but it was just a collective effort. It's great to see. But yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what you do with that one. Maybe they see Iheanacho as the long-term replacement. He's a strange player because when he came through at Man City, every game he played, he scored, and he looked like one of the brightest prospects in world football. He got his move to Leicester for, I think it was about £20 million. And then he got runs of games, and he didn't quite do it. And you're thinking, well, is this just a case of, anybody can score in that Man City side at the time? And I thought he looked better last season when he did play for Leicester. And maybe that's the option. They really believe in Kylian Iheanacho. But I think somebody out wide, maybe. I think Dwight McNeil, I'd go back to that. I think that would make so much sense. But I think Harvey Barnes, I think I think he's really promising on the left. But yeah, maybe you look at that right side, and I think if you could get Dwight McNeil in there, I know he predominantly plays on the left, and that would be a really good bit of business, I think, for Brendan. But we'll see.
Yeah, and I think of any manager right now in the league who can maybe get some youngsters and get them to perform, I feel like it's maybe not the right phrase to use for Iheanacho. I don't know how old he is, but I don't feel like he falls into that bracket of up and coming youngster right now. I think he's mid 20s, is he? Maybe
I'd say maybe 23 by now. But yeah, he's not that kind of 19, 20. He's be maybe 23.
But if any manager's going to realize his potential and just unlock something in him, I have faith in Rodgers being able to do that, like he's done with Harvey Barnes and people like that. So it's going to be really interesting watching Leicester this year, because a lot of people went into last season thinking, well, yeah, they might get 6th or 5th or something. It was for a longest time they were second place. So we just don't know. Know. So we'll see what goes on with everything in Leicesterville, and obviously that horrible club in white that have come up as well. And yeah, that has been our Premier League preview of the first L clubs that we're talking about going forward in this series. I have been Gareth from WhatCulture Football. You can find me at gmorgan04. Where can they find yourself, Andrew?
You can find me at Culture the Left Peg, and don't send me any Leeds abuse. It was all on him. It was all you, dude.
He put me up to it. It's cool. Go and check us out on Twitter at WhatCultureFC as well. And just keep an eye on these Premier League previews because they will be dropping all the way up to the start of the new season, where we're going to have loads of lovely content coming straight at you, all regarding the Premier League. You'll see our lovely faces as well. But in the meantime, have fun, look after yourself, and we will see you very, very soon.